The farmer's daughters cried every night, until the cowhand did something amazing. Frank Miller woke up every day before sunrise to tend to the cattle at Peaceful Valley Farm in rural Tennessee, but over the past 6 months, something had completely changed the routine of the property. The desperate cries of 3 little girls echoed through the big house every dawn, a sound that would break anyone's heart. Little Emily, 7 years old, Olivia, 5, and the youngest, Abigail, just 4, had been crying inconsolably ever since losing their mother in an accident. The farmer, William Anderson, a widower devastated by his own grief, could barely look at his daughters without breaking down in tears. The man who once commanded hundreds of workers now hid in his office, unable to face the girls' suffering. Frank watched it all in silence as he milked the cows in the barn. He knew the pain of loss all too well, having been orphaned as a child and raised by his uncle on a neighboring farm. But seeing those 3 little angels suffer so deeply stirred something in his heart. "Mr. Frank, the girls didn't sleep a wink last night," said Mrs. Jenkins, the housekeeper, as she served breakfast to the workers. "The boss is beside himself, but doesn't know what to do." "And what did the doctors say?" Frank asked, stirring his coffee carefully. "That it's normal. That time will heal. But it's been half a year, Mr. Frank. Half a year without these children getting a decent night's sleep." Frank shook his head, worried. He had lost his own mother when he was just 8 and remembered those first desperate months all too well. The difference was that he'd had his uncle and aunt, who, though strict, never let him cry alone. During the day, the girls wandered the house like little ghosts. Emily, once a talkative and cheerful child, now walked with her head down through the halls. Olivia hid behind furniture whenever someone approached, and Abigail, the youngest, clutched a worn-out teddy bear and cried at the slightest thing. "Daddy doesn't love us anymore," Frank overheard Abigail whisper to Olivia as he passed by the porch. "He does too," Emily replied, but her voice was full of doubt. "He's just really sad too." "I want Mommy," Olivia whispered, hugging her sisters. Frank's chest tightened. Right then, he made a decision that would change everything. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. That night, Frank waited until everyone was asleep and walked up to the big house. The girls' crying had already begun, a heart-wrenching sound mingling with the wind rustling the trees in the yard. He climbed the wooden stairs slowly, stepping only on the edges to avoid creaking. The door to the girls' room was slightly ajar. Frank could see the 3 little ones huddled on Emily's bed, sobbing. He took a deep breath and knocked lightly. "Girls?" he called softly. The 3 looked up at him with red, tear-streaked faces. "Mr. Frank?" Emily asked, surprised. "Can I come in?" he asked, removing his hat. Abigail nodded, wiping her nose on her pajama sleeve. Frank stepped inside and sat on the edge of the bed. The girls watched him curiously, unsure why the cowhand was there at that hour. "Do you all know why I work with animals?" he asked, gently stroking Abigail's hair. "Because it's your job," Olivia answered, her voice trembling. "That's part of it. But there's another reason. Animals get scared when they're alone, just like y'all. And do you know what I do to calm them down?" The 3 girls shook their heads no. Frank began to softly sing an old lullaby his mother used to sing to him when he was little. "Sleep, sleep, my darling. Sleep, for Mama is here. In your sweetest dream, she'll keep you near." The effect was instant. The 3 girls stopped crying and listened intently, as if his deep, gentle voice was exactly what they needed to hear. "My mother sang this to me when I was as little as you," Frank explained. "And do you know what she always said at the end?" "What?" Abigail asked, her eyelids already heavy. "That a mother's love never goes away, even when she's no longer here. It stays tucked in your heart forever." Emily moved closer to him. "Is Mama in our hearts?" "Yes, sweetheart, and whenever you miss her, just put your hand here." He placed his hand on Emily's chest. "And ask her to send you a sweet dream." "Can you sing a little more?" Olivia asked, already resting her head on the pillow. Frank sang 2 more songs, gently stroking the girls' hair until all 3 fell asleep. For the first time in months without tears, he carefully tucked them in and left the room in silence. but William had heard everything from the hallway. "What are you doing here?" the farmer demanded angrily. Frank turned, removing his hat again. "I'm sorry, boss. The girls were crying and You broke into my house, went into my daughter's room in the middle of the night." William was furious, his voice too loud. "Sir, I only wanted to help. You're fired. I want you off Peaceful Valley Farm by tomorrow." Frank lowered his head. He knew he'd broken the rules, but he couldn't regret comforting those children. "All right, boss, I'll pack my things." The next morning, William woke to an eerie silence. It took him a moment to realize what was different. The girls weren't crying. He rushed to their room and found all three still sleeping peacefully, their little faces serene. But when Emily woke and discovered Frank was gone, panic set in. "Where's Mr. Frank?" she asked, running through the halls. "Your father sent him away," Mrs. Jenkins explained awkwardly. "No!" Emily screamed. "He's the only one who could make us stop crying." The three girls cried louder than ever. They refused to eat, play, or leave their room. William tried to comfort them, but everything he did made it worse. "I want Mr. Frank," Abigail sobbed. "He knows Mama's song." For 3 days, things grew worse. The girls barely ate, slept only when exhaustion took over, and cried constantly. William was desperate. "Mrs. Jenkins, where is Frank now?" he asked on the 3rd day. "I heard he's sleeping in the barn at Mr. Thompson's farm looking for work." "And why did he know how to comfort them?" Mrs. Jenkins hesitated before answering. "Mr. William, Frank lost his whole family in an accident when he was 20, his wife and little boy. Since then, he's worked with children and animals. Seems he has a special way with them." William's chest tightened. He hadn't known about the tragedy in his worker's life. "Besides," the housekeeper continued, "he met Mrs. Catherine a few times when she came for cattle medicine. Always said she was such a loving mother." That afternoon, things got even worse. Emily ran a high fever from stress, Olivia refused to speak at all, and Abigail threw up everything she tried to eat. William knew he had to swallow his pride. He found Frank in the neighbor's barn, sleeping on a pile of hay with only an old blanket for cover. "Frank," he called. The cowboy woke up startled and immediately stood up when he saw the boss. "Mr. William, did something happen?" "The girls," William hesitated, struggling to speak. "They're sick. Emily has a fever. The others won't eat or talk. They keep asking for you." Frank quickly pulled on his shirt. "Let's go, boss. I wanted to apologize. I didn't know you'd lost your family." Frank stopped dressing and looked at William. "You don't need to apologize, sir. You were protecting your daughters. I understand." "Would you come back to the farm?" William asked, swallowing his pride. "Of course, boss. Those girls need looking after." When they arrived at Peaceful Valley Farm, the 3 girls were in the bedroom, huddled on Emily's bed. As soon as they saw Frank in the doorway, they ran to him. "Mr. Frank," Abigail shouted, throwing herself into his arms. "I thought we'd never see you again," Olivia cried, hugging his leg. "Daddy said you couldn't take care of us anymore," murmured Emily, still feverish but smiling. Frank knelt and hugged all 3 at once. "I'd never abandon you girls, I promise." William watched from the hallway, feeling a mix of gratitude and jealousy. It was obvious Frank had a connection with the girls that he couldn't match. "Now let's take care of Emily's fever," Frank said, touching her forehead. "And you two are going to eat something, okay?" "Only if you sing for us," Olivia bargained. "And tell us the story about Mommy," Abigail added. "What story about Mommy?" William asked, stepping closer. "Mr. Frank said he knew Mommy and that she was really loving," Emily explained. Frank glanced at William, realizing he'd stepped onto delicate ground. "I met Mrs. Catherine a few times when she came to the vet clinic," he said. "She always spoke so fondly of her daughters." "What did she say?" William asked, sitting on the bed. "That Emily was the most responsible, always looking after her little sisters. That Olivia was the artistic one, always singing and dancing. And that Abigail was the most affectionate, hugging everyone." The girls smiled at the descriptions. "Mommy really did say that," Emily said. "She sang to us just like Mr. Frank," Olivia remembered. William felt his eyes well up. He'd spent the last month so consumed by his own grief that he'd forgotten to celebrate his wife's memory with his daughters. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. Frank, could you stay here tonight? William asked. To watch over Emily's fever? Of course, boss. That night, Frank told stories about Catherine that the girls had never heard, sang lullabies and stayed by their side until they fell asleep. William watched from a distance, learning how to be a father again. In the days that followed, a routine settled in. Frank took care of the girls in the early evening, helping them sleep, then returned to his quarters. The girls improved dramatically, eating and playing again. But the situation created a new problem. William felt he was being replaced as their father. Mrs. Jenkins, the girls barely talk to me during the day. All they care about is Frank, he complained one morning. It's because you stayed away from them for so long, Mr. William. They're afraid to get close in case you leave them again. I'd never leave my daughters. But that's what happened, didn't it? After Mrs. Catherine passed, you locked yourself in your office and left the girls alone with their grief. William knew she was right, but it hurt to admit it. One afternoon, he decided to try reconnecting with his daughters. He found the three of them playing in the yard with Frank, who was teaching Olivia how to braid rope. "Can I play too?" asked William. The girls stopped and looked at him in surprise. "Daddy knows how to play?" asked Abigail innocently. The question hurt more than a punch. William realized he had become a stranger to his own daughters. I can learn," he replied, sitting on the grass. Frank noticed the awkwardness of the situation. "Mr. William, Olivia was asking me about the horses. You know much more about them than I do." "It's true, Daddy," Olivia perked up. "Mr. Frank said you have the most beautiful horses in the area." William smiled, finding a way to connect with his daughters. He spent the rest of the afternoon showing them the horses, telling stories about each one. But that night, when it was time for bed, the girls asked for Frank. "We like Daddy," explained Emily. "But only Mr. Frank knows how to make us fall asleep without crying." William felt frustrated and jealous. He decided he would try to take on this responsibility himself. "Frank, starting tonight, I'll take care of the girls at night. You can go back to your regular work schedule." Frank looked concerned. "Are you sure, boss? They're still very fragile. They're my daughters. I can take care of them." That night, William tried to repeat everything he'd seen Frank do. He sat on the girls' bed, tried to sing the same songs, tell the same stories, but it didn't work. His voice was tense, forced. The girls noticed he was imitating Frank and grew even more restless. "Daddy, you don't sing like Mr. Frank," said Olivia. "And you don't know Mommy's stories," added Abigail. "I want Mr. Frank," cried Emily. William felt like a complete failure as a father. He left the girls' room humiliated and found Frank in the living room. "They're crying again," he admitted, defeated. Frank went up immediately to comfort them, and within minutes the crying stopped. When he came back down, he found William on the porch, his head in his hands. "Boss, I'm a terrible father, Frank. My own daughters prefer you over me." Frank sat beside him. "You're not a terrible father. You're grieving too, and children sense these things. They don't cry when they're with you, because I'm not their father. With me, they can pretend everything's okay. With you, they feel like they can fall apart, because they know you'll be there for them." William looked at Frank confused. "They cry with you because they trust you. With me, they behave because they want to please me. But a real father is someone a child can be themselves around, even when they're sad." "Do you really believe that?" "I know it. When I was a child, I only cried around my mother. With everyone else, I pretended I was fine." William reflected on Frank's words. Maybe he'd been interpreting everything wrong. The next morning, he decided to try a different approach. Instead of competing with Frank, he'd try working with him. "Frank, would you teach me how to take care of the girls at night?" "Of course, boss. But you already know how to take care of them. You just need to trust yourself more." That night, the two of them went to the girls' room together. Frank showed William how to sit on the bed, how to speak in a calm voice, how to stroke their hair. "Now you sing," said Frank. "I don't know how to sing," William protested. "Every father knows how to sing to his children. Just open your heart." William began to sing a song Catherine used to hum while cooking. His voice trembled at first, but the girls smiled when they recognized the melody. "That's Mommy's song," said Abigail, snuggling closer to her father. "She used to sing it while making cookies," Olivia remembered. "Daddy, sing more," begged Emily. For the first time in months, William managed to put his daughters to sleep. When he left the room, he was overcome with emotion. "Thank you, Frank. I had forgotten how to be a father." "You never forgot, Mr. Frank. You were just afraid to remember." In the days that followed, William and Frank developed a partnership. Frank continued helping with the girls, but now William was actively involved. During the day, father and daughters spent more time together, and at night the two men took turns caring for them. The girls flourished under this new dynamic. Emily became talkative and responsible again. Olivia sang and danced through the halls, and Abigail went back to hugging everyone. But their happiness was interrupted by an unexpected problem. Mrs. Margaret, Catherine's sister and the girls' aunt, showed up at the farm unannounced. "William, I've come to take the girls," she announced, walking into the living room as if she owned the place. "What do you mean, take them?" William asked, confused. "I heard you can't handle raising them properly, that you hired a worker to do your job as a father. This can't go on." "Margaret, the girls are fine, better than they've been in months. A single man can't raise 3 girls alone. They need a mother, a woman's care. I'm taking them to Chicago with me." William felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. "You can't take my daughters from me." "Oh, I can. I have the money for a good lawyer, and you have an employee sleeping in your house, looking after your girls. That doesn't seem proper." "Frank doesn't sleep here, he just helps at bedtime. That's not what they're saying in town. They say you can't be a father, that a ranch hand is raising your daughters." William was furious. He knew small towns were full of gossip, but he never imagined it would go this far. "The girls aren't going anywhere." "We'll see. I've already filed for custody. In 2 weeks, they're coming with me." Margaret left, leaving William desperate. He ran to find Frank, who was in the barn. "Frank, Catherine's sister wants to take the girls away." "What do you mean?" William explained everything. Frank turned pale. "Boss, if I need to leave, I will. I don't want to be the reason you lose the girls." "No, you're part of this family now. The girls need you." "But the aunt has a point. A single man raising 3 girls alone is hard." "I'm not alone. I have you. I have Mrs. Jenkins." "It's not the same, boss. They need a mother figure too." That night, William couldn't sleep. The thought of losing his daughters terrified him, but he knew Margaret had strong arguments. She was married, had a big house in Chicago, excellent finances. He decided to talk to the girls about it. "Girls, Aunt Margaret came by today," he began, sitting in the living room where they were playing. "We saw," Emily said. "She was angry. She wants you to go live with her in Chicago." The 3 girls stopped playing and looked at their father in shock. "We don't want to go, Daddy," Olivia said immediately. "But Aunt Margaret can give you things I can't. A better school, pretty clothes, outings." "We don't want those things," Abigail protested. "We want to stay here with you and Mr. Frank." "What if I can't stop it? What if the judge decides you should live with her?" Emily moved closer and took her father's hand. "Daddy, Mom wouldn't want us to leave here. She loved the farm. She liked Mr. Frank. She loved everything here." "How do you know?" "Because she always said this was the happiest place in the world," Olivia answered. "And Mr. Frank tells stories about her that show how happy she was here," Abigail added. William hugged his 3 daughters, feeling determination grow inside him. "Then I'll fight for you to stay here. I promise." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. In the following days, William sought out a lawyer in town. The man got straight to the point. "Mr. William, this case isn't easy. Mrs. Margaret has strong arguments. You're a widower, you work long hours, and there are rumors about this business with the ranch hand. Frank is an exemplary employee who helps with the children. I understand, but to the court, it might look like you can't handle raising the girls on your own. What can I do? You need to prove the girls are well cared for, that they have emotional stability, that you're a good father. And how do I prove that? Witnesses, medical reports, showing they're happy and healthy." William left the office worried. He knew Margaret had more resources than him for a legal battle. When he got home, he was moved by what he saw. Frank was in the yard teaching the 3 girls to ride. Emily could already take a lap on the pony by herself. Olivia held tight to the saddle, and Abigail laughed joyfully as Frank guided the animal. "Daddy, look!" shouted Abigail. "Mr. Frank is teaching me to be a cowgirl just like him." "And Emily already knows how to ride alone," added Olivia. William smiled, but Frank noticed the concern on his face. "How did it go with the lawyer?" he asked after the girls went off to play. "Not great. Margaret has the upper hand in this fight." "Boss, if it's necessary—" "Frank, stop. You're not going anywhere. The girls need you and so do I. But if I leave, she won't have any arguments against you. And let the girls suffer again? Never." That night, William had an idea. He sought out Frank after the girls fell asleep. "Frank, what do you think about moving into the main house?" "What do you mean, boss?" "There's an empty room downstairs. If you live here, you can help more with the girls. And they'd feel safer." Frank hesitated. "Are you sure? This will just give their aunt more ammunition. Or it'll show we have a solid family structure here. But I'm just an employee." "Frank, you're much more than that. You're family." Frank was moved by the words. "If you're sure, I am." "You'll move in tomorrow." The next day, the girls were overjoyed to hear Frank would be living in the house. "Now we can see Mr. Frank all the time," cheered Abigail. "And he can tell us stories whenever we want," added Olivia. "And Daddy and Mr. Frank can take care of us together," said Emily. But the happiness didn't last long. Margaret returned with a court officer. "I've come to inspect the children's living conditions," she announced, stepping into the room. The officer observed everything. The house, the girls' room, spoke with them and Mrs. Jenkins. "And this is the ranch hand living here?" he asked, pointing at Frank. "Frank is our employee and helps with the children," William explained. "He lives in the house, in the staff quarters downstairs." The officer noted everything. After 2 hours, he left without a word. "You're going to lose these girls, William," Margaret said before leaving. "A single man with a ranch hand living in the house isn't a proper environment to raise 3 girls." That night, William was distraught. He talked to Frank about the situation. "Maybe she's right," he said. "Maybe I'm not the best for the girls." "Boss, you're being the best father you can be. The girls love you. But they love you too. Sometimes I think you're more of a father to them than I am." Frank sat beside William. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course. When I lost my family, I thought I'd never be able to love anyone again. Working here, taking care of the girls, gave me a reason to live again. You were a gift to us, Frank. It was the other way around, boss. You saved me." The 2 men fell silent, thinking about the difficult situation. A week later, the summons for the custody hearing arrived. It was scheduled for 5 days later. William spent those days preparing his defense. He gathered photos of the happy girls, medical reports showing they were healthy, and statements from townspeople vouching for his character. Mrs. Jenkins would be his main witness. "I'll tell the judge how much these girls have improved since you and Frank started caring for them together," she promised. "And if it doesn't work?" William asked. "It will. Those girls belong here." On the day of the hearing, the whole family went to the courthouse. The girls didn't fully understand what was happening, but they knew it was important. The hearing began with Margaret presenting her arguments. She spoke about the big house she had in Chicago, the private schools, and the opportunities she could offer the girls. "Besides, Your Honor, a single man raising 3 girls with the help of a ranch hand who lives in the same house doesn't seem appropriate to me," she said. William's lawyer countered, "The girls are happy, healthy, and well cared for." "Mr. Frank is an exemplary employee who helps with their care, but their biological father is present and involved." The judge then wanted to speak with the girls individually. He started with Emily. "Do you like living on the farm?" he asked. "Very much. It's where Mama is buried, where our horses are, where Daddy works." "What about Mr. Frank?" "He takes care of us with Daddy. It's like he's family." "Would you like to live in the big city?" "No. I want to stay close to Daddy and Mr. Frank." The conversation with Olivia was similar. She said she loved the farm and didn't want to leave. But it was Abigail who impressed the judge the most. "You're very little, But can you tell me who takes care of you? Daddy and Mr. Frank, she answered without hesitation. And are you happy? Very. Daddy teaches us to ride horses, and Mr. Frank tells us stories about Mama. What if you had to choose between living with your aunt or staying on the farm? Abigail started to cry. I want to stay with Daddy and Mr. Frank. They take care of us and sing us to sleep. The judge was moved by the little girl's reaction. Next came the witnesses. Mrs. Jenkins described how the girls had improved since Frank began helping with their care. Before, they cried every night, wouldn't eat, wouldn't play. Now they're happy, healthy children, she declared. The girl's doctor also testified in William's favor. The girls suffered severe trauma after losing their mother, but they've fully recovered. They're in excellent physical and mental health. Finally, the judge asked to speak with Frank. What is your role in the household? I'm the ranch hand, but I also help take care of the girls. How so? I help with baths, meals, bedtime. I tell stories, teach them about the farm. And what's your relationship with their father? We work together caring for them. He's the father. I just help. Do you have any romantic interest in the family? Frank turned red. No, Your Honor. My only interest is caring for the girls, who went through the same thing I did as a child. How so? I lost my mother very young too. I know that pain. The judge asked a few more questions, then left to deliberate. The wait was agonizing. William, Frank, and the girls sat in the courthouse hallway waiting for the decision. Daddy, will we have to leave? Olivia asked. I don't know, sweetheart, but if we do, I'll fight to bring you back. And will Mr. Frank come too? Abigail asked. If you go, I'll follow you, Frank promised. Emily hugged both men. You are our parents, both of you. After 2 hours, the judge returned with the decision. After reviewing all aspects of the case, I find that the minors are in a safe and loving environment on the farm. The biological father has proven to be present and caring, and the support of the worker, Frank, represents a positive influence in raising the children. William held his breath. Furthermore, the children's wishes are clear. They want to stay where they are, therefore I deny the request for custody transfer. The girls will remain with their father. William hugged his daughters, overcome with emotion. Frank smiled in relief. Margaret stormed out of the courthouse furious. This isn't over, William, she shouted. But William didn't care. He had won the most important battle of his life. On the way back to the farm, the girls sang in the car, happy to know they wouldn't have to leave home. Daddy, will Mr. Frank stay with us forever now? Asked Abigail. If he wants to, William replied, glancing at Frank in the rear-view mirror. I'm not going anywhere, Frank assured. When they arrived at the farm, there was a celebration. Mrs. Jenkins had prepared the girls' favorite dinner, and everyone rejoiced in the victory. But life brought new challenges. A few months later, an unexpected offer arrived. A big company wanted to buy the farm for a very high price. It's a very good offer, boss, said Frank after William told him about the proposal. But if I sell, we'll have to leave here, and you know how much the girls love this place. The money would give them a very comfortable life in the city. But is that what they want? William decided to talk to his daughters about the possibility. Girls, if we sold the farm, we could buy a big house in the city. You could go to the best schools. But we like going to school here, Emily interrupted. What about Mr. Frank? Would he come with us? Olivia asked. I don't know. In the city, he wouldn't have work as a ranch hand. Then we don't want to sell, Abigail decided. William smiled. Once again, the girls had shown they knew what they wanted. Then we won't sell. But the company didn't give up. They started making higher and higher offers, trying to convince William. Think of your daughters, said the company's representative. With that money, they could have anything they wanted. They already have everything they want, William replied. A sensible man would think of their future. I am, and their future is here, on the farm, with the family we've built. The company then changed tactics. They began buying the neighboring farms surrounding William's property. If you don't sell willingly, you'll end up selling unwillingly, the representative threatened. We'll isolate your land, block access to the roads, make your life difficult in every way. William grew worried. Had he made the right decision? He talked to Frank about the situation. Maybe we should take the offer, he he said. "If they can make life hard for us." "Frank, are you giving up on us?" "Never, boss, but I'm thinking of the girls. The girls are happy here. You heard them." "But if the company follows through on their threats?" William was torn. He knew the company had the power to make things very difficult. The following week, the situation worsened. The company blocked the road leading to the farm, forcing William to take a much longer route to town. "This is blackmail," he protested. "It's business," the representative replied. "The longer you take to accept our offer, the worse your situation will get." The girls began to notice something was wrong. "Daddy, why is it taking so long to get to school?" Emily asked. "It's a temporary problem, sweetheart." "Is it because of those men who keep coming here?" Olivia asked. William didn't know what to say. He didn't want to involve the girls in the trouble, but they were sharp and noticed everything. The situation got even worse when the company started interfering with the electricity supply to the farm. "This is outrageous," complained Mrs. Jenkins. "How are we supposed to cook without power?" Frank suggested using the generator, but it was a temporary and expensive solution. "Boss, maybe it's best to just accept their offer," he said. "These people won't stop. And let them win by intimidation? It's not about winning or losing, it's about protecting the girls." That night, without electricity, the family gathered in the living room with candles. The girls thought it was fun at first, but soon realized it was a serious problem. "Daddy, why is there no more light?" asked Abigail. "It's a technical issue, sweetheart." "But Mr. Davis's house has power," Olivia pointed out. Emily, always the sharpest, asked the question William feared. "Daddy, does this have to do with us having to leave here?" William sighed. He could no longer hide the truth from his daughters. "Girls, there's a company that wants to buy our farm. Since I don't want to sell, they're making our lives difficult." "But we don't want to leave," protested Abigail. "I know, honey, but we might not have a choice." "There's always a choice," Emily said firmly. "Mom always said that." "Your mother did say that," Frank agreed. "She was a strong woman just like you." "Then we'll fight," declared Olivia. "We won't let them take our home." William smiled at his daughter's determination. They were right. He couldn't give up without a fight. The next day, he sought out a lawyer specializing in rural property. "What they're doing is illegal," the lawyer confirmed. "You can sue for intimidation, emotional distress, illegal interference with public services, but they have a lot of money for lawyers. And you have the truth, that counts for a lot in court." William decided to fight. He filed multiple lawsuits against the company, reported their illegal practices, and rallied the local press. The story of a farmer fighting to protect his property and his daughters from a big corporation caught attention. Newspapers and TV stations from the region came to cover the case. "Why won't you accept the company's generous offer?" a reporter asked. "Because this isn't just property. It's my daughter's home where my wife is buried, where we built our family." The girls appeared in the news, sharing how much they loved the farm and didn't want to leave. "This is our home," Emily told the cameras. "Our horses are here, our mom is here, our family is here." The response was overwhelmingly positive. The local community rallied behind William. Other farmers who had sold their land to the company regretted it and publicly supported his fight. "This company destroys entire communities," said a former neighbor. "William is right to resist." Public pressure forced the company to back down. They stopped blocking access to the farm and restored normal services. But they hadn't given up completely. They changed tactics once again. A few weeks later, William was visited by a social worker. "Mr. William, we received an anonymous complaint about your daughter's living conditions." "What kind of complaint?" "It claims the girls are being exposed to dangerous situations and aren't receiving proper care." William was furious. "That's a lie. My daughters are very well cared for. I need to inspect the property to verify." The social worker spent 2 hours at the farm, talking to the girls, Mrs. Jenkins and Frank. She examined the house, the children's room, and the school they attended. "Mr. William, I found no issues. The children are well cared for, happy and healthy." "So the complaint was false?" "It appears so. I'll close the case." But William knew the company was behind the complaint. It was just another attempt to pressure him. "They won't stop," he said to Frank. "They'll use any tactic to force me to sell." "But we won't stop either," Frank replied. "We're on the right side." The fight continued for months. The company tried several other tactics. They bribed public officials to deny permits for the farm, spread rumors in town about William, and even tried to bribe farm workers to cause internal problems. But nothing worked. William had the support of the community, honest authorities, and most importantly, his own family. The girls became little activists in the fight to keep the farm. They made signs, joined protests, and gave interviews about how much they loved their home. "Our home is not for sale," Abigail shouted at one of the protests, holding a sign she had made herself. The story gained national attention. Newspapers across the country covered the saga of the family, fighting a big corporation to keep their property. Public support grew so much that the company began to be seen as the villain. Their products were boycotted in several cities, their stock prices dropped, and the corporation's image was severely damaged. Finally, the company gave up. They withdrew all offers and left the area. "You won," the representative announced on his last visit, "but you paid a high price for it. The price of keeping our dignity and our family together," William replied. "It was cheap." With the victory, life at Peaceful Valley Farm returned to normal. The girls celebrated by planting a tree in the yard to mark the occasion. "This tree will grow with us," Emily said, "and when we're grown, it will remind us that we fought to stay home." But the biggest change was in the relationship between William and Frank. The struggle had brought the two men together for good. "Frank, you're no longer just my employee," William said one evening. "You're my partner, my brother, part of the family." "Thank you, boss, William. The girls are lucky to have two fathers who love and respect each other. And I'm lucky to have found a family that accepted me." The years passed, and Peaceful Valley Farm became an example of success and family unity. The girls grew up strong and happy, surrounded by the love of their father and the man who had become their second father. Emily graduated as a veterinarian and returned to work on the farm. Olivia became a teacher at the local school. Abigail decided to follow in Frank's footsteps and became a cattle handling specialist. "Daddy, do you remember when we cried every night?" Abigail asked as an adult during a family dinner. "How could I forget?" William replied. "Those were the hardest months of my life." "And do you remember the first night Mr. Frank sang to us?" Olivia asked. "I remember," Frank said, his hair now grey. "You stopped crying right away." "That's when our family truly began," Emily said. "When we realized love doesn't divide, it multiplies." William looked around the table at his three grown daughters, Frank aging beside him, Mrs. Jenkins still taking care of everyone, and felt like the richest man in the world. "Your mother would be proud of you," he said, emotional. "And of you too, Daddy," Abigail replied. "You never gave up on us." "Neither did I," Frank added. "This family saved me just as much as I helped save them." That night, like so many others in recent years, Peaceful Valley Farm fell asleep in peace. There were no more cries from frightened children, just the serene sound of a family that had overcome every hardship through love, unity, and determination. The three girls who once cried every night now slept soundly, knowing they were protected by the two men who had chosen to be their fathers. And William and Frank, who had started as boss and employee, fell asleep as brothers, knowing they had built something more precious than any fortune, a true family. Peaceful Valley Farm remained a home filled with love, where three girls learned that family isn't just defined by blood, but by the bonds we choose to create and honor every day. And where two men discovered that a father's love can multiply endlessly when there's a generous heart to welcome it. Frank never had to sing lullabies to soothe nighttime cries again. Now, he sang songs of joy during sunny days, surrounded by the voices of the three girls he had helped raise, the daughters of his heart. The end. What did you think of this touching story about family, love, and overcoming challenges? Have you experienced something similar in your life or the lives of those close to you? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like this video to support us. Subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other heartwarming stories like this one.